If you think Ferrari's suspension upgrade was a solution, then why did it expose their biggest flaw? On paper, the new rear suspension was supposed to stabilize the SF25, more traction, better rotation. But on track, it did something no Ongenheiro previa. It revealed which driver Ferrari is really building around. Leclerc called it better feeling. Hamilton, meanwhile, couldn't keep the rear end steady through Stavlo. But here's the twist, the suspension did work, just not for both. The same hardware produced two different cars. Because Ferrari didn't bring a universal upgrade, they brought a tailored solution, optimized for Leclerc's neutral, progressive inputs. Hamilton's sharper, reactive style suffocated. The real issue isn't the part, it's the philosophy. A team trying to make one geometry fit two legacies and failing both. What happens when a 7-time champion feels the car is lying to him? If you think a few millimeters of suspension geometry can't shift power inside a team, ask why Hamilton's corner exits look like survival. Ferrari's new rear upgrade isn't just mechanical, it's political. The altered pickup points and damper alignment subtly changed the car's rotation behavior. For Leclerc, it's harmony. For Hamilton, it's chaos. Why? Because the geometry favors a slow yaw buildup. Leclerc's style thrives on that. Hamilton doesn't. He needs the car to snap in, rotate instantly, then stabilize under throttle. That's not what this upgrade gives him. The irony, in Sim, Hamilton's setup requests were flagged as outside current operating model. Translation, not compatible with what Ferrari wants this car to be. This is where it gets darker. Sources reveal internal briefing slides labeled Leclerc's handling model as preferred future baseline. That phrase isn't technical, it's political. It's how a legacy is chosen. Hamilton hasn't been given the wrong car, he's been given the right one for someone else. One engineer's words were enough to define the weekend. Hamilton's feedback is too disruptive. He didn't shout, he didn't protest. After FP1, Hamilton quietly made 3 specific setup requests: stiffer rear compression, sharper throttle mapping, and a subtle front-rear weight shift to recover rotation. All were denied. The official reasoning? Not aligned with current development direction. But behind that phrasing lies a deeper truth. The SF25's evolution has already chosen its path and its favorite driver. While Leclerc received rake adjustments mid-session, fine-tuned to his cornering preference, Hamilton's setup remained frozen. Identical parts, unequal flexibility. Inside the paddock, this isn't called development, it's called prioritization. Hamilton didn't argue. He simply closed his notebook, nodded, and walked to the back of the garage, staring not at the screens but beyond them, calculating. Because what happened in that garage wasn't technical, it was a power play. And Lewis knew it. Trust isn't lost in radio messages. It's lost between turn 7 and 10. On paper, Hamilton's Ferrari looked stable, but the data between Malumedy and Bruxelles tells a different story. His steering input comes early. Throttle application follows, but the rear doesn't respond. The delay? 0.9 seconds longer than Leclerc's on the same compound. To the naked eye, it looks like caution. In reality, it's hesitation born from doubt. And doubt in a car like the SF25 is fatal. Leclerc's inputs are clean, confident. The car trusts him because it was built around him. But Hamilton? His traces show corrections mid-corner, throttle lifts in places that should be full attack. It's not just the setup, it's psychological. After the session, Hamilton stood next to the car for nearly 2 minutes, helmet off, eyes fixed on the rear suspension arm. No words, no gestures, just silence. Not frustration, recognition. He knows the truth. He's not fighting the track. He's negotiating with a machine designed for someone else's instincts. Sometimes sabotage doesn't wear a mask. It's written in meeting notes. Before the weekend even began, Ferrari's internal setup briefing included a quiet directive: prioritize base map stability, avoid high reactivity damping proposals. Innocent enough, until you realize what it really means. Hamilton's entire driving DNA is built on high reactivity rear behavior. That note wasn't just a technical precaution, it was a block. Sources confirmed that his preferred damping profiles were submitted after the post-Hungary simulator runs. They were labeled non-ideal and flagged with a red tag, effectively removed from consideration. No discussion, no feedback loop. Leclerc's preferences, meanwhile, formed a new setup baseline, not because they were faster, but because they were safer, easier to tune, predictable. That's how control works in modern F1, not through orders but filters, by deciding which inputs survive the pipeline. And Hamilton? He's been feeding data into a system that discards it at the gate. All it took was one question: and the room went cold. After the debrief, while engineers discussed tire behavior and sector deltas, Hamilton waited. Then he asked, "Was this car ever tested with my Hungary settings at spa ride height?" No one answered immediately, not because they didn't know, but because they did. The silence wasn't confusion, it was confirmation. Those settings were never simulated in the final ride height configuration. They were bypassed. Someone finally replied, "We stuck to the preferred baseline." That phrase again, preferred baseline, clean, corporate. But what it really means is this: Ferrari decided in advance who they're building around, and it isn't the 7-time champion. Hamilton didn't push, didn't argue, but the look he gave his race engineer, not anger, not disappointment, but calculation, said everything. He wasn't surprised, he was documenting, because what's happening isn't incompetence, it's orchestration. And Lewis knows when he's being filtered out of the process. It wasn't a radio message, it wasn't telemetry, it was a throwaway comment that blew the lid off. During a casual Paddock exchange, one of Ferrari's strategists, not in Hamilton's direct loop, but close to Leclerc's side, said the quiet part out loud. "Well, Charles's run plan is the model now, everything else is a deviation." He wasn't speaking to Hamilton, but Hamilton heard it. The words cut deeper than any lap delta, because that sentence confirmed what the data, the behavior, the setups had all hinted at. Ferrari no longer operates with two equal pillars. There's a model, and there's a passenger. Since the arrival of the rear suspension upgrade, every optimization has flowed through car 16. Even the aero adjustments in Sector 2 balance, adjusted to Charles's cornering inputs, are now applied team-wide by default. Hamilton's car isn't a weapon, it's a clone of someone else's philosophy. What that strategist revealed wasn't new to Hamilton, it was just validation. Public, undeniable. Silence isn't surrender. In Formula 1, it's the calm before revolution. After everything, the blocked setups, the filtered feedback, the passive exclusions, Hamilton made one last move before sprint qualifying. A setup request, not through the usual channel, not even through his race engineer. It was sent directly to the performance director, quietly, formally, with a simple line attached: "Run this, or I'll know." The change? A sharp rear rebound adjustment, something that would restore instant rotation on corner entry, the same trait Ferrari had systematically removed. That single request wasn't just about performance, it was a test, not of the car, but of the team's willingness to fight for both drivers. As of the last update, no confirmation came, but Hamilton's demeanor in the garage said enough, calm, detached, and in his eyes the look of a man preparing for more than just a race, because Spa may be about points. But for Lewis Hamilton, it's now about territory, about identity, about refusing to be repainted in someone else's colors. And if Ferrari won't listen, he'll make the whole world hear it. If you believe the truth deserves a voice, subscribe and join the ones who see beyond the timing screens.